Metal raised garden beds have taken the gardening world by storm. It felt like nobody had a metal raised bed a few years ago, and now they're absolutely everywhere. Go on YouTube and just type in metal raised bed and you'll find hundreds of videos of people reviewing different brands and talking about the types that they have. And I guess this video is just like all those other ones where it's now added to it. But in today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the benefits of metal raised beds. And it's not brand specific, it's actually for any metal raised bed. And if you haven't caught my other video already, I did a video on all the reasons why you should not buy a metal raised bed, because I think it's important that you do your research and you know if it's right for you or not. I don't want to talk you out of a metal raised bed. I don't want to talk you into a metal raised bed. I want to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make the right decision for you wherever you live and you're located. If you're new here, my name is Bree from Urban Gardening Canada and I garden in Ottawa Zone 5. Now, most of my pros that I'm going to be giving you are based off of the experience that I have with my metal raised beds, plus a little bit of just a generic pro that you can have with it. And if I'm being completely honest, I am biased. Generally, I try and be as unbiased as possible, but I actually prefer to build my own gardens out of wood. Truly, I am a wood gardener, and it's what I believe is the best option for my garden. Let's just say that. But I do own a ton of metal raised beds. I've bought a few of them myself and I've been gifted a couple of them. So you will see actually more metal raised beds around my garden than wood ones. But at my previous house, my entire gardens, all of them were built out of wood. I didn't own a single metal raised bed. The reason that I ever bought my first metal raised bed was here when I moved to Ottawa, and it was because I needed something really fast to set up, because I moved here at the end of August and I hadn't gardened up till moving here, and so I really had that itch to try and grow something. So I had bought these metal raised beds from Raised Garden Beds Canada, and the sole purpose was just that I wanted to build a garden as fast as possible and be able to move it around, and so that's what I did. So that would bring me into the first benefit of a metal raised garden, is just how fast and easy they are to build. You don't need any special tools. It's like buying a IKEA piece of furniture. It comes with all the tools that you need. You don't need to have any special skills, no tools, no saw, no nothing. Everything comes in the garden when you buy it. So all of the bolts and the hex key or whatever it is, wrench to put them all together, and one person can build a garden by themselves. So you don't need to have a partner or someone else living with you. You can easily just build these gardens by yourself. The box, when it gets delivered, is really heavy, but I find once the garden is built, it's actually not too bad to move around, especially the smaller gardens. If you have a garden that's like 2 feet by 4 feet, it's really light and super easy to move on your own. So that is definitely a benefit to them, is that there's no skill required whatsoever to be able to build these gardens. So the second thing is that all of these companies advertise that their gardens are going to last 20 plus years. I don't know anybody who's owned a garden that's metal for 20 years, so I don't know if they actually last that long without rusting or breaking in some sort of a way, but that is one of the benefits that they say compared to wood, which doesn't last very long, but I just don't agree with that. There's so many things that can happen in 20 years, whether you change the shape of your garden, you move, you no longer want to garden, who knows, but these are supposed to last 20 years. So the theory is that you invest in a garden once and hopefully it outlives you or your interest in gardening. So that is a second benefit to it, is the longevity of these gardens. So the third benefit, which is something that I have found, is one of my gardens is 32 inches high, and I feel like most animals can't get into that garden. So squirrels can, but I've never seen a raccoon in it, but skunks, groundhogs, mice, or rats, because the metal is harder for them to climb up, your garden is protected from certain pests because of that height and it being metal. So for me, I plant a lot of my prized food in my 32-inch tall metal raised garden, so that way there's less animals that have access to get into there. Bunnies, for example, I know that they can jump really high, but they tend to not even look up, I guess, into that garden to see to go into it. So I have found that the higher the garden, the better it is for pest prevention. The fourth benefit is all about accessibility. So gardens that are tall like that 32-inch one, or even they make the metal raised beds that are on a stand and some of them have wheels even, those are really good for anybody who has accessibility concerns. So if they can't bend over, or they need to tuck in, say you're in a wheelchair and you need to tuck in under a garden, it gives you a little bit more flexibility to be able to do that with some of these gardens. So for me, I really like that because you often don't see a wooden raised bed that's built 32 inches or higher. So these metal raised beds being built to come in that height and not bow or collapse from the soil means that someone who has any type of mobility issues has a better chance at being able to garden. And for me, I think that is a very, very good benefit of these gardens. The next benefit is something I was thinking about because I went to a community garden in the city here and they had all metal raised beds. And it can be expensive, but a lot of these companies have programs like give back programs where they'll give a discount to community gardens or work with them in some way or another. And to me, I actually think that the metal raised beds are a really good choice for community gardens because they take so much more wear and tear than the wood does. When you have plots being rented, people are going to care for that garden in different ways, and it might not be in the best way possible. So having gardens that are able to take that wear and tear means that as a community garden owner or an association, that your gardens are going to stay in good shape and last longer. And so this can be a benefit to them. As long as someone doesn't bump into it and warp them, you're going to get a nice garden that's going to look good for a long period of time, and you don't have to worry about volunteers having to tear down and rebuild these gardens because of that longevity of how long they live. So I think that metal raised beds are actually a really good choice for community gardens. All right, before we get into the next benefit, I do want to mention I have a fun new product that's available, and this is a grocery list. So it is full of over 200 different grocery items, and I built this because I was tired of having to stare into my pantry all the time and figure out what I needed to buy, and so I built a list. And the best thing about this is it's grouped by all of the different areas of the grocery store, and because there's so many items on there, it's going to prompt you on what you need without you even having to look in the pantry. And even if you maybe forgot that you needed to buy something, it's going to be on the list. It's absolutely a game changer in order for us to now go out and get all of our groceries, especially when the garden season isn't at its prime and we need to go out and buy stuff. The produce section of this list is massive with all the different vegetables and fruits and herbs that you might need. So if you did want to check it out, it is absolutely an affordable little e-product that you can get, and I'll link it in the description below for you. Now let's get back into the video. All right, so one of the negatives that I talked about in my other video was the heat absorption, but this can also be a positive. So the theory is that if the metal raised beds warm up in the sunshine and warm up the soil, this might not be good for somebody in Texas or Florida, but it might be good for somebody in Canada Zone 3 or colder, because we already have really short seasons here. And if you're in a more northern area of Canada, then your seasons are even shorter. So having the heat absorption of the metal raised bed means that your soil is going to warm up sooner and stay warmer than if it wasn't in metal, which means that you might be able to grow more food or different food for a longer period of time. Now, this is just a theory. I don't live in a zone 3, I'm zone 5, and I don't know anybody who has metal raised beds and wood raised beds that has compared the two. So if you are in a colder zone and you do grow in metal and wood and you've noticed a difference, or you haven't, let me know in the comments below. because I'm really curious to know if this is a good tool in order to extend your season in an even shorter growing zone in more northern areas. Okay, so I have 3 more benefits, but they're kind of just one benefit altogether that I'm going to talk about, and that is the aesthetics of them. It's undeniable that metal raised beds just look really nice. Some people don't like them, some people do. You can get companies that sell them where they don't change the color of it, so it just comes in the metal color, and then there's companies that sell them in a wide range of colors. And I've seen pictures of gardens where they have rows of metal beds that come in, say they're all in like a nice blue color. They look really, really nice together. And so there's a really nice aesthetic if you're looking for that beautiful garden that you look out and you're like, wow, this just looks really clean and nice. Then I think metal raised beds are the right choice for that. You can get them in rounded shapes. When you're building out of wood, you can't build them round unless you've got really intense skills. So you can get different shapes. They've got clovers or just round ones, or even like massive like crescent shaped ones. So that one is a really neat version of a metal raised bed where you can put a seating area in the center with a massive crescent around it. So there are benefits where if you're looking for a very like visually pleasing garden through different colors, different shapes that are rounded, or you want rows on rows of beautiful, perfectly ordered gardens in the same color that's different than wood color, then that is where metal is going to excel. For me, I've always felt that metal raised beds as a whole excel from an aesthetic purpose. But this is where I'm saying that I'm biased and I really like wood raised beds over metal, is I've always felt that metal raised beds are really more for the trendy garden or a gardener who just likes the looks of the garden versus the functionality of it, because our grandparents and great-grandparents, they never grew in these. They grew in the ground. It was more for subsistence and survival, where we just had, I don't know about you, but my grandparents had their entire backyard was just literally dug up as soil, and it was all planted with vegetables, and there was nothing fancy, nothing pretty or anything about it. It was all just about getting the most amount of food out of any space that you can. And for me, I've always built wood raised beds because I can modify the shape to be exactly what I want. If I wanted a triangle garden, I built that. I built a massive E shape in my previous house because I just loved the immersive feeling of the garden, and it just used up the space really well without having too many walkways. It just was more about using up the space than looking pretty, but it just naturally ended up looking really nice. So for me, I've always chosen the wood option, and I also have all the tools and skills to build them all. So it just felt more customizable to me. And so again, my bias is that I find the metal raised beds have their biggest advantage is just that they're pretty. And you might totally disagree with that, and you can let me know if I missed any benefits or what you think is a benefit in the comments below, because I know many of you that watched the other video said that you own quite a few metal raised beds. So I'd love to know what made you decide that you wanted a metal raised bed and what was your purpose behind it. And if you disagree with my belief that wood is better, but we all have an opinion, and it all is really about what works best for us personally, and what works best for you doesn't necessarily work best for me, and vice versa, and it's all really personal preference as well. So of course, no shade to anybody who has metal raised beds, because I have them too. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in this video here. Bye.